So you've done it. You've spent weeks, maybe even months, deep in the weeds auditing a really complex AI system. You've got a mountain of data, but let's be real, the hardest part is still ahead. How do you actually communicate all that risk to your board in a way that makes them sit up, listen, and, most importantly, take action? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. Turning dense, technical audit outputs into a sharp, strategic report that leadership can actually understand.
And this right here is the question that keeps every audit and risk professional up at night. The technical details, you've got those down. But translating them into tangible business impact, that's the critical last mile. Because if the board doesn't get the so what behind your findings, then all that hard work, well, its value just gets lost.
Because let's be crystal clear about this. An audit isn't really done when the testing is over. No, it's finished when the findings are understood, when someone takes ownership, and when the business actually acts on them. That whole journey from audit to action, it completely depends on how you report your findings.
Okay, let's take a look at the whole audit lifecycle here. A lot of teams are fantastic at the early stages. You know, the scoping, the data collection, the model assessment. But the real value, the part that actually cuts down risk and makes the business better, it all happens in these final two steps you see highlighted: reporting and remediation monitoring. Your report is the bridge that connects all of that deep technical work to real-world change.
So, how do we build that bridge? Look, it's not about just dumping all your data into some 100-page document and hoping for the best. It's about strategic communication tailored specifically for a C-suite audience. We're going to use a simple, super effective three-part framework to build a report that any executive can digest and, this is the key, act on. This framework is all about clarity. First up, the executive summary. This tells them what they need to know, right at the top, no digging. Second, the scope and methodology explains how you got there, building that all-important credibility. And third, the detailed findings. This gives them the crucial context, the why behind every single one of your recommendations. Each part has a very specific job to do for a very time-crunched audience.
Diving a little deeper, this slide is basically your blueprint. Your executive summary is the hook. It has to have your key findings and, critically, that overall audit rating. The scope section is where you show your work, proving you looked at the right models with the right tests. But pay close attention to the detailed findings. You absolutely must assign management owners for every action, because without an owner, a recommendation is just a suggestion, and we all know what happens to those. They get lost in the slide deck.
Okay, this is where the magic really happens. The single most important skill here is bridging that gap between technical metrics and what they mean for the business. Your board doesn't speak in terms of F1 scores. They speak in terms of revenue, risk, and resources. So you have to learn to speak their language. And this is exactly how you do it. Instead of just stating the model's precision score is 85%, you reframe it as a business question they care about. Are we wasting our resources chasing down false alarms? Instead of listing a recall score, you ask, are we missing out on critical opportunities or, worse, failing to spot major risks? By reframing it this way, you immediately make these abstract numbers relevant to an executive.
Now, to actually answer those business questions, we need a tool that's a lot smarter than just a single performance score. And that's where the confusion matrix comes in. You can think of it as a map of errors. It's a simple grid that doesn't just tell you if the model got something wrong, it tells you exactly how it was wrong and where it's getting tripped up. And that is absolutely essential for diagnosing the real business risk.
Then, of course, there's the F1 score. This metric tries to balance precision and recall into one simple number. And you know what? It's a great high-level health check. It gives you a quick snapshot of overall reliability. But, and this is a really big but, if you rely on it alone, it can be dangerously misleading. It can actually hide the very risks you're paid to find.
And here is the absolute crux of the issue. A model can look fantastic on the surface. It can have a really high F1 score, making everyone feel great, while underneath, it's quietly creating a significant, costly, and maybe even a legal bias against a whole group of people. Let's look at a real example of how this plays out.
Okay, imagine this is the confusion matrix for a loan application model. The numbers in green, true positives and true negatives, are great. That's where the model got it right. But the numbers in red, those are the mistakes. Now, the overall F1 score for this model might be fantastic, but if we dig into the types of errors, something really alarming pops out. Look at those false negatives. Those are the 200 people who should have been approved for a loan but were denied. And we found that this specific error is hitting one demographic, Group B, way harder than anyone else.
And this is the insight you bring to the board, not the F1 score. You bring them this statement. Our model is 4 times more likely to incorrectly deny a qualified applicant from Group B. That one statement takes all the numbers and translates them into a clear, undeniable statement of business risk, reputational risk, and regulatory risk. That's the power of going beyond the simple summary metrics.
And finding insights like that, well, it's not just a one-and-done task. This level of detailed, insightful reporting is what fuels a robust, ongoing AI governance program. It's what keeps the whole organization safe. This is how it all ties together. The specific findings from your audit report on performance, on bias, on privacy, you name it, they feed directly into these high-level governance objectives. Proving that a model is fair isn't just some technical checkbox. It's a core piece of building an accountable and trustworthy AI program. Your report is the evidence. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your audit report is not just a summary of what's already happened. It's a strategic tool that literally shapes the future. It guides risk management, it proves due diligence to regulators, and ultimately it builds the trust you need with all your stakeholders to keep innovating safely with AI. So I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Go back and look at the last report you wrote. Ask yourself, is it just a technical summary that checks a box? Or is it a truly strategic tool that empowers your board to make smarter, better decisions? Because honestly, the answer to that question will define the entire impact of your audit function.